Doing the work to really know your true self goes such a long way in creating a life by your design, by allowing you to really live the kind of lifestyle that allows you to flourish, allows you to enjoy the best things in life instead of constantly running the race that most people are. It also saves you an incredible amount of internal stress that can really derail people. And even while they may have had a couple of decades of success that they created by doing what everybody else does and doing it in that way, there's often a time that they have to then answer for it, that they have to make some major shifts and changes. But instead, when you follow your true self and you understand it, you can start living that lifestyle really early on. And that's exactly what I did, because in my 20s, I just had an awareness that I knew myself enough that I knew what I loved, and I went towards that, and I prioritized my values, and I knew what was important. Now, not everything got ticked off on that list, admittedly, and so it wasn't about being perfect, but that's part of what going by your true self is. It's not about being perfect, but it's that what gets ticked off actually is like sometimes 10 times more fulfilling than just a list that's created by what other people think you should be doing. And then the things that as I said, didn't get ticked off yet, it doesn't mean that they can't, right? There's still plenty of, hopefully, time and space for them to occur as well. But I do know when they do occur that there will be more match to who I am than, again, something that I think I should do because everybody else does it. And I've created my lifestyle that way. I've created my business that way. Again, from a relatively early age, because that was part of my value system. And so if you're watching this video and that's something that's really important to you, then I think you're going to appreciate it. If you're somebody who wants to follow the hustle culture and get the most whatever views on YouTube or whatever else you're doing, then there's probably other places you can go and watch instead. And I admire many of those things, by the way. It's not that I never watch them, but I know how to use them relatively and not let them overpower me, because it's really easy to get kind of caught in this race, this constant race of I have to stay at the top, I have to do it this way. And you can see that in some of, like, not some, in so many of the titles on YouTube videos as well. Like, they just copy and paste. And ultimately, while it looks like it has, in the short term, maybe will provide some benefit, ultimately it's always going to be a race that the person is running. And so all of that 9 to 5 that we're trying to escape, or this kind of traditional way of working that they thought, well, I'll be a content creator, ultimately they're just running a different race, but it's still a race, right? And so if you're doing it with a sense of joy and fun and it just really excites you, awesome. It will work for you. But if you notice that you're losing parts of who you are, that you're getting stressed in the process, that you are like 90% of the time in the head instead of actually your whole self, you're going to be missing out in the long term. It's going to take its toll. And some of the things that, like, there's so much I'd like to share. That's why I kind of pause, because it's like sometimes I get flooded with all these thoughts. What I want to say is that lifestyle, it has to do with things like rhythms. What is a rhythm of your day? How, what time do you go to sleep and wake up? That really suits you instead of what you're supposed to do according to other people. What allows you to shape your day according to what has you thrive and flourish, and compared to anybody else, right? So for example, in my case, I find that every week there's usually like a few days where I have especially higher energy, and then maybe a couple of days where it's just like I just need to refuel, and I find everything just feels so much harder. So if I take a task and I do it on one of the slow days, it's going to take me 10 times longer, and sometimes I don't even finish. But if I do it on the day where I have the higher energy, boom, 10 minutes, done. And I move on to the next, and I really have a sense of accomplishment. I have a sense of joy. I have a sense of that sense of like self pride. Oh, yay, I finished in 10 minutes, and then that fuels the next task I have. And so rhythm is, for me, was really one huge part of why I began creating things the way I did. Also, I have, certain values in my life, what's really important to me. So my health and well-being is really important to me. I like feeling excited and happy and ready to go when I am. And then when I don't have that, just, take it easy and rest instead of force and push and manipulate myself, right? And that has really supported my health and well-being over years. While I've run a business, which can, as many people know, have its own stresses that employees do not have to deal with. And to be able to ride the ups and downs and still, have a smile on my face genuinely, that's important to me. And, maybe it's not important to everybody else, but it is available, it is possible. Also, things like relationships, I want to make sure that I have time for them. That's really a high value of mine. And so, for example, I want, when I, again, create my week, create my days, I want to make sure there's space for spontaneity. And that's for different reasons. One is that then my intuition has I have a greater ability to actually hear my intuition because I'm not rushing and forcing and saying, oh, it's, 2 o'clock, I must do this, 4 o'clock, I must do that. There's space. So if intuitively I get a nudge to go somewhere or do something or make a call, I can do it. I can create space for that. The other thing is my energy does kind of shift over a day. And so I want to be able to operate when it's at operate in my work, for example, when it's at a higher level. And, when it kind of sinks a little bit, I, go do other things or rest or take time out, take a walk, whatever it is that I need to refresh and refuel. And then, as I said, like, for example, relationships are high priority. So, if I get an invitation, then I can easily, make space for it as well. So just this morning, actually, a longtime friend of mine was in town, and it didn't look like we would have time to visit because of his schedule. But then suddenly I got a call, and he was like, I'm very near your area, and I can meet you in the next 15 minutes if you happen to be available. And it's spontaneous, it's last minute, but this way at least we get to visit before he had to leave. And so I was able to do that, and it was just great. And this is, as I said, one of my long-term friendships that I value being able to sustain over years. And so being able to make these kind of choices and being able to change my schedule really supports the values that I put up as my higher values. The other thing that I think I said, I can't remember, because I actually started recording this, by the way, and it just wasn't flowing, and so I had to restart a couple of times. So now I'm like, did I already say this, or was it in the last video? Anyways, so one of the things that happens sometimes when you are following your own rhythm, when you are really looking at your true self and what it needs, what has it flourish, there can be a lot of criticism along the way. There can be your own self-doubt along the way. Oh my goodness, I'm doing it this way, or it feels like I'm going slow. And the way, everything out there operates with all our social media and everything always looks fast. We see the end result, we see the success at the end. We don't see the journey a person has gone through. When we hear other people's criticism, they're like, why are you doing things differently? Why don't you just do it the easy way? Why do you always have to take this different road? And it can make us question ourselves. And what I've learned after years, because I have gone through plenty of that, and over the subtlest things, I've always wondered why people have any interest in why I do things the way I do. Like, why is it their business? Why does it even affect them? I don't understand. But I think people like to have an opinion, and sometimes like they feel um, uncomfortable because it's like, oh, maybe if she's doing it this way, maybe I'm doing something wrong, or they get intimidated. Anyways, there's all this stuff that can happen. And if we latch on to it and forget our true self, we can get caught in some other people's energy that doesn't allow us to flourish, that doesn't have us thrive, that has us kind of shut down our own instinct and our intuition and operate on just copying other people. And so when I've had these times when people have questioned the way I, do things, way I run my lifestyle and my business, it did make me pause. It did make me question. It did have me ask questions about myself and the way I was doing things. But now, after years of that, and after years of doing it, and knowing where I am now and what I've created and what I'm about to create, I am actually blown away that most of the world is now kind of catching on. And there are videos after videos after videos on YouTube, for example, where people are talking about these things, and it's become the norm. Manifestation, for example, is a big topic that, as I've shared in previous videos, that I was doing well before I ever heard that word. Then there's people who talk about, really understanding your rhythm and your human design, for example. And again, before I even learned what human design was, I was already operating on it in many ways. And that's because I did the work to know my true self from years ago. That's because I didn't fall prey to copying other people and the way they were doing things. We can always learn from other people. I'm always learning. I love seeing people from, different walks of life and their approach. I will watch videos where somebody is more of a kind of, as we call it, the hustle culture, right? But what happens, why I like some of those is I watch the ones that for whom that is really their nature. They thrive on it. It is just like they couldn't stop doing it if they tried, right? So there are people for whom it will be very natural, and I applaud that. And there are things I can learn from that. But I also know that there's plenty of people who operate more on what I'm referring to here, on really understanding the true self. And I find often these people who are highly successful, who may have spoke about doing it through hard work and hustling and all that, but when they finally kind of get to this plateau of, oh, okay, I've already amassed the level of success I want, now I can kind of like relax a bit and look around, what they end up talking about and what they end up saying is very often the exact things that I've been talking about for many years and living. And so I find everybody reaches this point, but when are you going to do it? Are you going to do it early, or are you going to wait, another couple of decades before you learn those lessons, right? And so what I have found is even the people who were critical, what they would now see is that this is very much the way the world has been traveling all these years. And it's going to keep going in this direction even more. And the ones who have done the work and are doing the work to understand who they really are and be much more sovereign in the way they live their life are the ones who are actually going to thrive in these times of what looks like great chaos, in unpredictability, in knowing that anything can change in an instant. People who know themselves have, they strengthen their backbone. They really do, through the challenges they go through, and by doing things their own way instead of just copying. And so all of this over time, it's like an investment. It pays more and more and more dividends. Initially, it may look like you're going backwards because you're spending your time, you're spending your energy, maybe you're spending resources investing in programs, for example, working with a coach, all of that. But if you stay on that path and you continue and you keep applying it to yourself, and that is really essential, is that you keep applying, because you can't just learn in the head and then forget about it. You actually have to put it into practice. You're going to find that the dividends are going to become exponential at one point. I can go on camera now and video and talk about things because I have a past where I have put all of these things into practice. And it's not just reading about it and listening to somebody else's YouTube and then trying to say the same thing. I actually have experienced it, and I've worked and guided many people in it as well. And so I can see all the nuances in the certain pieces that are really important for people to understand. And so, when I work with people, for example, I work holistically with them, and that allows them to move forward and apply these things in a healthy, whole way while achieving their ambitions, so that they're not like trying to do one thing and then have to go backtrack and do the other, which can be a lot of having to undo habits. And it's much harder to undo a habit that you've developed over years than it is to start and create really work to your rhythm, really work in ways that support you, work in ways in which you thrive. And so doing the work now, what is my true self? What do I really like? Does this work for me? Let me try something new. Let me do the research. Let me work with somebody who can see me and reflect back and be a sounding board as well, so that I don't get stuck in places for months and months that I could have, really discussed in one conversation and really shifted my life significantly. Let me be able to manifest things now, instead of thinking I have to wait months and months for that to materialize, right? So really working with your true self, doing the application, and being courageous enough to do things differently than people around you, and being authentic, all of that pays you over and over and over again from the inside out. And so while this video was just kind of me chatting, I didn't have much of a logical sequence here. I hope it's had you at least reflect on maybe why you're, on how much you are operating on your rhythm or not. I hope that it has really given you that sense of support in saying, yes, I can be my true self. Yes, there are people all around the world doing that who also are both successful and have fulfillment, that have a genuine smile because they actually feel it. And actually, it was really sweet. This friend I saw, we'll see each other every couple of years when he's in town, so it's not a frequent connection. But since we've known each other since university days, it was really sweet. He just said, I just really appreciate your positive energy. You just have this wonderful aura of positivity, and anyways, it was just really touching for me to hear that from somebody who knows me, who's known me for a long time, that this isn't something that I'm just putting on for anybody, but that he's seen the journey that I've traveled, and at least heard about it at times, but then also been able to see who I am, and that I can stay true to that. And so yeah, it's nice getting those reflections from people who we've known a long time. And yeah, so that falls under your value system. What's important to you, and creating the life so that that really gets to be the way you live, instead of something you're trying to work towards, that one day, maybe that magical one day, I'll have all these things in place, because it doesn't work that way. So have a fabulous week, and I'll catch you next time.